What up? It's your boy, Cometa Reyes, aka Jesus el Cristalero, Purple Pill 50/50. Um, I start off in YouTube so I could get it on landscape mode. I don't really like having it, portrait view. But if I don't YouTube or something, um, we'll get a video that turns landscape. There we go. Um, I feel like I feel like it turned it portrait anyways, but okay. So basically, first thing is that if the video cuts off for whatever reason, I'm just gonna make the second part um, on my own without the stream, and then I'll upload it, because that way it's easier to record less, you know, um, it's easier to record a smaller video, finishing up whatever we weren't able to cover, and yeah, welcome to the Psycho Realm. So, for those of y'all that don't know what's up, this is the Purple Pill Movement, hosted by Jesus Christ himself. And here y'all go. Basically made my little flyer here. Says Purple Pill 50/50, Blue Pill, Red Pill. Trying to read this backwards. If new to the channel, please refer to the link in the description, which I already posted. 50% will stay, 50% will think this is a joke. Smiley face. So, that's the introduction. Basically, blue pill or red pill, okay? Blue pill, you exit out. You never touch any of my videos, ever. And you carry on with your life, living life as mediocre as you can be. But for those of y'all that, enjoy being in Wonderland, take the red pill, join me. 50% of you will choose correctly. 50% of you don't even know what I mean by that is that basically there's no blue pill. Where they right? It's a metaphor. But pill, it's just not in the options. It's in the title. Okay, so what I have here is basically that I had made this out of one of my mom's do her and basically set up so we could use them for today. Illustrate honestly don't know how to fix. I'm not going outside my room to record, but regardless, give me 1 second. I need to bring forth the big host of all this, which is basically not me. Okay. That being said, it is indeed someone who's related to me, but I don't know where she hid. Fuck Logic, where'd you go? I swear I had her a couple minutes ago, but regardless, it's fine. She probably just didn't wanna appear this time in the video. I found you. I got it. Alrighty. Continuing. Okay. So, this right here, this here be my daughter. Born from my hand, and basically stating the rules. 50-50, your center is the most important detail in the learning the secrets of fuck logic. DNA of fuck logic is complex and requires pre-knowledge to understand a certain extent. Its origin is unknown, but in this notebook, her documentation starts with numbers, codes, and the alphabet, or abecedario. Fuck Logic's requirements are Spanish, English, and a hacker's mentality, okay? To be able to perceive her message to you, okay? This is God, and your angels are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay? Those are your angels. Those are your 10 angels, but technically you only really use 9, because after 9 it becomes 1 again. That's essentially the basics of numerology, and that's what all this is based on. That's what life is based on, in my theory, okay? According to fuck logic, life is based on math. It's based on algorithms and codes. That being said, continuing, fuck logic, yo. Okay, for the sake of fuck logic's playful manner, she's inviting us to play an innocent game where the rules are quite simple and require nothing but a good laugh. Okay, rules: you lose every time you remember the game. So silly and innocent that it seems like just a joke to anybody, but it makes fuck logic extremely happy when you play along. Okay, and that is it. One simple rule that is all fuck logic, or jodido estamos in Spanish, asks us to do as we learn from her. Okay, she means no harm, as is the spirit's wish of I and I. Okay, but gives us the keys to the meaning of life. But it is our responsibility to use our K knowledge in good terms and in a respectable manner. Okay, that's very important. Wish you luck. The author's I and I fractaled several times discerning this information. Okay, meet your new gods and angels. Drug the base. Okay, cool. So, basically, we're only gonna be using numerology, ABCs, and so on. This is epic. Etymology has never seen itself quite like fuck logic, okay? Okay, so, A, there's a 50-50 chance in every possibility, okay? That's covering the main topic, purple pill, 50-50, okay? In every possibility outcome, anyways, of happening or not. What that means is basically the 50-50 rule is so outlandish, it's so out of concept, that there was a literally a 50-50 chance of any of this existing. Okay, what that means is that you're lucky. You're lucky you exist. So for long. So every possibility outcome always of happening or not. Even if the odds are stacked 1,000,000 to 1, there's still 50-50 chance that those probabilities don't mean squat. Okay. So, rule number B. There's also a 50-50 chance that you can escape fuck logic by you continue. I highly doubt it though, since there is a 50-50 chance she chose you to begin with. Okay. C. There's a 50-50 chance that you're not reading this book right to begin with. D. Fuck logic is a living, evolving spirit code that chooses its own path, direction, victims, and family. Okay. What that means is, by the victims is basically she chooses who she reveals herself to. Okay. And if you don't understand the concept, it's because she's not revealing herself to you specifically at that given time. But keep at it. Keep perceiving what she's trying to tell you, and patience. Patience is a virtue, as they say. It's a must. So we're gonna be covering A. Hold on. We're covering letter A, slightly touching upon the A. What is the A? As we know it, it is alpha, right? Alpha. What is alpha though? Why alpha? Okay. Jesus says, I am the alpha and omega. What is alpha and omega? Okay. So this is basically an introduction. This is not covering the A exactly, but I'll show you how we're gonna cover it in just a bit. Okay. The alpha being the lead, the main head, is essentially what starts the group or process. So that is why Jesus would say, I am the Alpha and Omega. Omega is Greek, so is Alpha, but Alpha is in several dialects or languages as it has evolved. Okay. This is not proper alpha energy. The actual alpha energy is that lowercase. We perceive reality in a backwards manner. So we think that this has more power than this, when in all actuality this has more power than this. Why? Because this is basically straight lines. This is male energy. This is curved, circle and flip out. That's female energy. To understand the concept of life, you essentially have to begin with that, a binaural sequence. Positive and negative, positive and negative, positive and negative. So, positive and negative, right? Omega. was essentially something um, like that. I think I'm not sure. Kind of like a like the Libra sign. Um, I kind of fucked it up. So Omega is basically a closure. Basically, in Greek culture, whenever they say that is done, or closed list, done deal, it's Omega, and they would emphasize it. Okay, it's not an Omicron, because that's an Omicron. Okay, Omega and Omicron. We've adopted the Omicron, um, but they kind of led us to believe that we've adopted the Omega for our alphabet, the English alphabet, but not really. So, Omega essentially is the end of everything, okay? That's what that means. That's why it says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, saying I am the beginning and the end. But let us write down some words that mean beginning and end, right? So, beginning. I don't know if it's spelled with two G's, but I'm just going to put begin, right? And then over here, we're going to put end. Okay, sorry, I'm kind of crossing over, but it's fine, it's whatever's. Genesis. Because in the beginning, there was God, and God was the Word, okay? Genesis of the Bible. Yes, we're going to be picking it up a little bit from here to there. I'll bring it in a bit, and I'll show you guys two scriptures of what we need to learn from it for this specific topic. Okay, so essentially we got Alpha and Omega. Genesis. What are the end of times? Because we got the end. Well, we'll just put that there. Of times. People say it's apocalypse, but I beg to differ, because apocalypse means revelation. So I got two words now. By that word alone, we actually have both apocalypse and death, because death does indeed bring an end, closure. So we got death and closure. Okay. Apocalypse. I wanna be, 100% sure that I got the word right. So I flip open to Revelations. Revelation. There's no S. Okay. Some people say Revelations. That's erroneous. So we got. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Thus we know of an apocalypse of Isaiah, another of Moses, and another one of Enoch. Okay, so we have three apocalypse, one of Isaiah, one from Moses, and one from Enoch. But Enoch is taken out of the Bible. Okay, that's very important. If you haven't read that book, read it. Look it up. You're not gonna find it in the Bible because it wasn't canonized, but it does indeed give out very important spiritual aspects of the biblical scriptures. Okay, and this would be the fourth installment. I guess that's part of the reason why they didn't add Enoch here, because Enoch had his own apocalypse inscribed. So they wanted to keep it three, but essentially this is the fourth apocalypse, and we're actually going through an apocalypse as we speak. Apocalypse. Okay, correct spelling. So sorry about that. I don't really have a stable board to write perfectly on this. But yeah, so heading towards the book of John 1. Okay, John 1. By God in the perfect model of all, the Word. Okay. This was the testimony of John when the Jews sent priests and the Levites to ask him, "Who are you?" John recognized the truth and did not deny it. He said, "I am not the Messiah." Okay. And they asked him, "Then who are you? Elijah?" He answered, "I am not." They said, "Are you the prophet?" And he answered, "No." Then they said to him, "Tell us who you are, so that we can give some answer to those who sent us. How do you see yourself?" And John said, quoting the prophet Isaiah, "I am the voice crying out in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord." Okay, very important. These persons have been sent by the Pharisees, blah blah blah. Okay, so that was John 1, chapter 1, verse 19. Okay, but let's read the first verse of chapter 1. It says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Okay, he was in the beginning with God. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, essentially, Genesis. We gotta read Genesis to see what he mean by that. So Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. In the beginning, when God began to create the heavens and the earth had no form and was void. Darkness was all over the deep, and the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. Okay. God said, "Let there be light." Okay, so he spoke. So in the beginning was Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, because the Word was God. Okay, so essentially, that being said, I'm gonna give you guys a quick illustration of origins. I would like to say origins because essentially it's not really Genesis, because Genesis is taken. We already have scriptures that under the name of Genesis. Whoopsies. You know what? I'm just gonna do it the other way around. Okay. Yeah, buddy. So, much better. All right, my bad. Very important. Okay. So, don't pay mind to this. Okay. Just keep in mind that the board is completely blank. Now I need you to do an exercise with me, and you have to play along, okay? Besides, just cut this off. What do you see here? Specifically in this range, okay? From there down. What do you see here? Pause the video and think about it. Okay? So pause it, think about it, try to discern what I mean by it. And once you're ready, come on through. So continuing, okay? So, ready or not, here I come. Okay. Okay. Now, what do you see? Okay. Pause the video, and as a matter of fact, I would like you to comment what your thoughts on the first exercise before this, and then that. Okay. So pause the video, discern, and comment. Let me know what you guys think before I reveal my big secret. Okay. So, what did I just do? Essentially, that's the question. Discern, think about it quickly, and what I just did was essentially I created a universe. Okay. Trippy, I know. So essentially, I drew this little dot, and the eyes. When you see a blank page, your eyes just go everywhere. So this is a psychological phenomenon that is taught to us in school. They taught us this in 5th grade and so on. So it's kind of interesting how the mind just goes directly towards the dot, wherever it is on the page. As soon as there's there's another set of information besides the original, the eyes directly look for that point, and they're like, well, I see a point now, what's your point? So essentially my point is this: I just created time, I just created a universe, and I just reenacted origins. Okay. Why? Because let there be light. You can't have light if you don't have darkness, right? You gotta have a point of reference. So I just spoke without speaking, but I had to convey my message. Okay. So, but what if we enlarge this? Okay. Keep in mind. Okay, so we enlarge it. Now what do you got? Right? Basically, we got yin and yang. Darkness and light. Binary sequence, right? So, this is how Crazy Spirit is. It's split into two. It was black and light. Okay? Dark and light. So, with the darkness and the light, it was two deities. Okay? But it was just one being. And it was speaking to itself, saying, well, you're dark and I'm light, and no, but you're dark and I'm light, and they started going crazy, right? And so they had to get a third opinion. And essentially, that's where the Big Bang comes in, right? Bam! Motherfucker. My bad. So, what I just do? I just made the Trinity. You feel me? Okay. We got light and dark, and we got direction. Okay. These are the 3 dimensions that we have been falsely led to believe. It is our reality. In all reality, we live in a much higher dimension than the 3rd dimension. Why? Because the 3rd dimension doesn't consist of time. Okay? So, what does? A lot of ways to interpret it, but in my understanding, it's in the 1st dimension. Because that's essentially where you begin. Because you got 0 point, right? You got 0 point, and this is okay. So 0 point is essentially dimension 0. Okay, there's nothing going on. It's just whatever. There's no way to interpret it because we're part of 0 dimension. Okay. Now we make a line, right? A ray. That's a ray because it goes one direction. Now we got time. That's the first dimension. Okay. In the second dimension, I don't know why they make a plane for the second dimension. It's highly illogical, but what I'm gonna explain with that is the fact that you got a ray. Basically, you're going in one direction, but what about the other direction? We don't go backwards. We've never gone backwards in time up until this point, at least as so far we know it. So that to me is what the actual second dimension is. Going backwards. Whoopsies. So second dimension is a straight line. Essentially, this is, hold on. It's essentially that, basically. Okay, you got an angel going through, and you got another angel just kind of circling around. Okay, so essentially, we cannot have an actual visual concept of this because a 3D map just wouldn't do it. Okay, even though this is essentially third dimension. Okay, but this is in essence this. Okay, essentially it's one line kind of going straight, but it's like a turbine, so it starts revolving, evolving as it goes. Get it? So what happened here? Okay, this happens history all the time. All right, we got negative, it just splits in two. We got yin and yang. So we got our third concept. We got our third entity here, as you will. This is God, and this is Michael. Okay. God is comprised of two deities. God herself. Yes, you heard that right. God herself and Lucifer. Okay. Now bear with me. Bear with me, because I know some of you like just exit. Nah. Check this out. We have antagonized her for too long, and I gotta show you guys why she is so important to the equation. Jesus does state you cannot, a house divided cannot stand, it will fall. The Pharisees challenged him, and they said he makes miracles in the name of the prince of evil, the prince of demons, basically Lucifer. Now, the reason why she is so important is because of her name. Okay? Why am I referring to her as a her? Because it's a she. Okay? We got positive, right? And we got negative. Binary sequence. Black and white. Okay? Or black and white. So, how do we get positive and negative from a single point? Okay, you break it off. So essentially, the positive turns into that, basically two negatives. That's why we use the equal sign, because one positive equals two negatives. All right. Okay. Bear with me. Actually, let me change colors, because it's much better to do this. Ta ta ta. All right. So essentially um, we got positive, breaks off into two negatives, vice versa, because I actually learned this backwards. Essentially, you have a negative and it breaks off and crashes into each other. Okay, that's the actual origins. Okay, you got two negatives off of a single positive. True, but check this out. I'm gonna illustrate real quick. You got a negative that breaks off from the middle. It repels itself because that's what magnets do when they have same polarities. It repels itself, but since it's the only thing that exists in the universe, bam, we get a positive. Okay, we essentially get a positive from this. Okay, so essentially, whoops, essentially this is our positive, right? But check this out. The positive is not here. Okay, this is where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be centered always. Why? Because it's the eye of the storm. Okay, in a hurricane, the most chaotic parts are gonna be around you. If you're in the middle of the hurricane, you're safe because it's the eye of the storm. That's essentially where you feel the most calm because everything revolves around us. Okay, us. So, what happens if we astray and go elsewhere? Well, we crash and we break our positive and have multiple negatives lying around. So essentially, we are the negative. Okay, that's why we must stay positive. If we can't stay positive, then may God help us, right? Because our world, all we really need is a bit of understanding. So simple, origin, so simple, a kid can understand it. And that is the meaning of life. What do I mean by that? I just created friction. Essentially, that's the illustration that I just painted. Okay, that's origins, a single snap. I may have created multiple universes, one after another, as I snap my fingers. Okay, that's essentially how the multiverse works with this concept. Okay, and this is fuck Logic's concept, right? Copyright that shit. So we got this, right? So where do we get a positive from a negative? Well, this is what happens, yo. This is the reason why human beings have a higher sensation of pain than happiness, than pleasure. We are twice as prone to feel pain than we are of pleasure and happy feelings. This is why. Essentially, Michael, because we were happy, going through our tunnel, nothing's wrong, and yet we just couldn't connect because we're in a sense opposite polarities, right? Opposite polarities basically just shoot off differently. They shoot in opposite polarities, but for some reason they attract. So essentially, we got this, but they did themselves in a way, and history repeats itself. Right here, we got the illustration of Michael and Lucifer with God. And here is where I get to explain how Lucifer took a third of God's army, as they say. You know, that's what we were taught. I've never read it in the Bible. I've yet to see it, but I digress. Moving on. So we got, put in red. You can clearly see it. We got a positive right here, right? And we got a positive right here. Wait a minute, but wait. So doesn't that mean that we're supposed to feel more pleasure than pain? Because we're thinking backwards. Okay. Negative is rest. Resting is negative. It's perceived as positive because we feel rejuvenated. But essentially, when we rest, we're discharging all our positive aspects. Okay? That's what Jesus meant when carry your cross and come with me. He stated that, and he was still not crucified, right? Crucified basically means kill him. It didn't mean, this. It meant just cut his fucking throat already, right? So, we got positive, positive, and we got the negative. What we want to do is be in the middle here, because that is where God takes care of us. Because God is around us. God is around every single one of us and takes care of us as long as we stay in the middle. But if we dilly-dally, we sine wave, we could crash right here, we could crash right there, and we could crash definitely up there, okay? So, this right here, right here, right here, okay? This right here, if we're going down, essentially, this is the crucifixion of Jesus. And it is also the beginning of our conflict, which is Lucifer and Michael. That's where they first bump heads. Why? Because they both wanted to be with God. And God loved both of them, but God did have a thing for Lucifer. She is indeed the most beautiful angel you'll ever see. She revealed herself to me, which was interesting, because her face, whoa, like infinite, okay? So when they say she's the most beautiful angel, she literally is the most beautiful angel, because an infinite face with every aspect of human makeup, basically a facial structure, it's constantly just, it's like a little vibration that you just see, and it's a trip, because I saw every single human being's face in her face. So I didn't see it for too long, because obviously I would overload, but she showed me. So yeah, she is indeed the most beautiful angel ever to have been created, right? And right here, essentially, we got a bit of resolution, right? This is where Michael goes, boom, kicks Lucifer out of heaven, and essentially begins Earth. Genesis was actually made by Lucifer, but we don't see that because her name is not stated, right? But her name is stated. Let there be light. Okay? Her name, Lucifer, literally means light. Okay, so knock off that misconception of Lucifer, because Satan means opponent, right? Satan is the one that we perceive to actually be our contrary, our enemy. But as Jesus Christ said, love our enemies, all right? There's a very important reason for that, which is on another topic. Right here, we got Peter, okay? His cross is upside down, right? So we got the top of the mountain, we got Jesus Christ crucified, and then we got Peter crucified upside down. And you can read it in the scriptures. He literally states, I am not worthy to be crucified in the same manner as Jesus Christ was our Messiah. So, crucify me upside down. Can you imagine that? How painful was this crucifixion? Now imagine being put upside down. You're drowning, basically, in your own blood. So, this right here is essentially where Lucifer says, Father, why have you forsaken me? She says it twice, okay? She says it in Origins, and she says it through Jesus Christ. Because essentially, Jesus Christ, he was starting to sweat blood. That's a thing that channelers do. I've sweat blood. It's common thing in spirituality. We sweat blood when we channel spirits, because it's a strong connection with God when we channel spirit. Thus being, we need lubrication, okay? And the blood has oil that basically lubricates that energy manifesting through us, right? If we wouldn't, if we were channeling and we didn't sweat blood, dead, okay? Complete overload, your DNA would be fried, right? There's no way that you're not gonna get burned. Like, your skin will literally burn if you're channeling and you don't sweat blood, okay? Regular sweat is not enough, right? That's why we sweat blood, because it's thick, it's oily. That's why. It's got a lot of plasma, it's got a lot of retention. So, coming back to here, Father, why have you forsaken? But wait, how come you said Mother? And how come Jesus Christ said Father? Well, because Jesus Christ spoke backwards. That's how he did his miracles. That's how he knew everything that there is to be, and that's how he taught us. That's how he taught his disciples. A lot of them didn't really get it at the beginning, but as soon as Jesus Christ was gone, they're like, oh, wait. I think I understand now. See? So essentially, Jesus Christ, he saw that nothing was happening unless he were to be gone. He was the only one doing miracles. I mean, yeah, he did appoint his apostles, and they went out doing miracles as well, but they would fail a lot. And that's essentially life. Our learning process is inevitably this. We gotta hit something. We gotta fail. We gotta break a few stones to get a few positives, right? We gotta break a few positives to get a few negatives. Okay, so we got positive and negative, right? But out of each positive, you get two negatives. Or if you want to look at it a different way, you can get 4 negatives, right? But the universe is always balanced. That's what this is about. This right here is essentially phi, or at least a close enough representation of phi. Phi is an I, like the letter I with a circle around it, or circle inside of it, essentially crossing each other. And that is an interpretation of God, because it is an equation, just like Fibonacci. Fibonacci is essentially, the closest it can get to 5. That's why it said make their path straight. If you make your path straight, you got nothing to worry. You're in the eye of the storm, okay? So essentially we're going through this tunnel and not through it. You get what I'm saying? Hand gestures. Okay, so follow me. So we get two negatives, and for every negative, you get two. You get a positive basically. So it splits off into two negatives. Um, Splits off into two negatives, and then you get two positives in placement of each negative, right? So that, my friend, kind of defies the laws of physics. But in all actuality, it doesn't. Because multiplication is division. Why? Because we just got 2. We multiplied our outcome by dividing. Okay? That's why it's such a misconception, dividing and getting a smaller number. Okay? So every time we actually divide, it is counterintuitive to mathematics, because multiplication, yeah, sure, okay, but division is actually where you get a higher number, because quantum physics, we're actually not getting bigger. It seems like every generation is starting to get taller and taller, but we're actually getting smaller. That's why the older generation is usually shorter, and we tend to be perceived as shorter and smaller in stature and size, because essentially we're giving off our accumulated energy, right? So we have a ton of negatives and positives, and we actually have an imbalance, because money is negative, okay? Negative attracts negative, but yet it repels it, okay? So keep that in mind, because it's very important to think, to life as it is. So that being said, let's go back to the old topic. I know I'm already an hour in, but hey, when you step on information like this, you really want to just let it go and continue life working a 9 to 5. Come on. We can make miracles, because Jesus Christ taught us how to do that. And essentially, we just gotta apply this concept, because this is origins, okay? That's essentially how he decided, okay, I know how to do it specifically. Because they did ask him, how come you don't make miracles in the town, city, or wherever you're from? He said, well, because they didn't have faith. And whenever they would ask him, like, why they didn't have faith, he would just kind of wonder, like, himself, I wonder why they didn't have faith. But he knew. He didn't wonder in all actuality. It was a backwards misconception. He knew that they had too much faith. You know? They had faith, they wouldn't believe. So, okay, I'm going off topic with that. Save it for another time. So essentially, we got the letter A right here, because we got a line and we got a circle, right? Alpha. So in the beginning was alpha, because essentially you got direction and you got a spiral. So this is another interpretation of this right here, alpha. Crazy, I know, right? So where does this come from? Well, I might cover in a different video. So, breaking it down. Okay. Alpha. Going in alphabetical order. A1, B2, C3, etc. Right? So, we got here. Let's use orange for this one. All right. So we got 1. We got 12. We got 16. We got 8, and we got 1. All right. So these are numbers that pertain to the letters of alpha. Okay. So far, so good. But we need to crunch these numbers. So we add them all up, and essentially we get a value after adding all these up. And to show you guys a quicker way to add and diagnose your words, you must learn the alphabet. And the best method to do that is this. Oopsies. Alright, this basically. Breaking it down. Alright. You start with one letter, right? You start with A. What equals A? Well, I mean, A equals A. But so does J, and so does S. What do I mean by that? Because J is in the 10th position of the alphabet. So being that a J is a 10, you add 1 and 0, and you get an A, right? So far, so good. And S is in the 19th position. And since it's in the 19th, you add 1 and 9, you get a 10. You add 1 and 0, you get an A. So S is equal to A, right? So far, so good. So you start by learning your sets of 3s, okay? And what I mean by that is following the alphabet, what position is each letter in? And this is pertaining to the English alphabet. Our dialect from long ago, whatever language you have learned, primarily your first language and maybe your second language, those are the two that are most important to you, okay? Meaning you might have a different diaphragm, but in all actuality, it adds up the same because it's like God. Essentially, this is a result of this. It all came from one point. It all came from an alpha. So, what is equal to alpha according to my decryption? Well, let's see. Okay. We got a couple things here. We got AAH, because if you add A to the H, you get a 9, and essentially anything you add to 9, it becomes itself. Okay. So the AAH, just two A's and an H equals alpha, right? Or so we're led to believe. So we also got bag, we got bay, and that's actually very important. We also got the letters MAN, aka N squared. Okay, N squared is human being, because in numerology, the square, the exponent, is not treated as an exponent. It's not multiplication. You add always. In numerology, you don't multiply unless you're using heavy sets. Okay, and usually you're not doing that. Usually, you're actually adding and kind of dividing, or not dividing, but decrypting. Decrypting is kind of dividing. It's essentially, excuse me, the other diagram that illustrated earlier. So we got man. Who's the alpha man right here? Yes, sir. Right? So, since I am speaking right now, shut the fuck up. I am alpha. Right? I don't hear you guys and I don't see you guys commenting. So, y'all beta testing. But it's cool. I'd rather be beta testing than being alpha because I don't like being in the center of attention. All right. So we got DIF. Like difference. Makes sense. Makes sense. Because that's how time started, with a difference of light and darkness. But notice there are 3 elements to Genesis. Okay, he spoke. That's element number 1. He said, "Let there be light." So light and darkness split. So that's 3. So essentially, we got our this. That's Genesis. Okay, but this interpretation is called origin. Okay, not to be confused with Genesis, because Genesis is essentially God already, in a way, a little more evolved, and decides to make this huge reality. Okay, he started dividing everything, like yo. Okay, so this is that. Labeling. Why do you think we always be criticizing and labeling things as, okay, so this is that, this is a notebook? No, this to me seems like more like my pet. No, how can you say that? That's your son. Get it? I'm not gonna call this my son, even though it is. Okay. Essentially, sorry. Essentially, I take care of my things because they are a part of me. Because every time I acquire new things, I acquire new knowledge, I am dividing. I am dividing my intel. Okay? So, sorry, I'm kind of going on a skew there, but back at it. That's funny. So we got DEA as alpha. We got GBA. For those of y'all that played the Game Boy Advance, holla. Big shout outs. Definitely a big Nintendo fan of the old consoles. I actually have an SP lying around somewhere. We got win. WIN equals alpha. No wonder, being the alpha male, it's always about winning. But sometimes we gotta take the L. Right? So we got quite an interesting variety, and what I did was basically I jot down the alphabet, each letter at a time, and I put an A as my beginning letter, and then I put a second letter. I input a second letter to get my third letter. Okay, that's a hacker's mentality. That's very imperative to you learning, because if you don't learn how to do this simple code that will unlock essentially a virtual dialect that has been hidden away from us, but it's inscribed in our DNA. Okay, our spirit, our DNA, essentially picks up things and mixes it. All right, the alphabet is indeed inside our DNA, and it's like this. It's always revolving, and it's always creating new equations. That's how we have time happening. Okay, if you thought this was real reality, you need a reality check, because I'm gonna show y'all real quick something far out. Okay, follow me here. So we got alpha, right? Okay, so We got AI equals alpha because I equals 9, and you add A and I equals 10, etc. Moving on. So AI, artificial intelligence, does equal alpha. And you thought you were special. But you are, because, you know, it's essentially you're a perfect being, but being perfect includes imperfection. That is why we branch off from mother, father, and we create a new reality. We become alpha the day that we conceive, okay? Actually, as a matter of fact, this A is a perfect illustration of conceiving, because essentially you got the sperm cell going inside the egg already and the tail hanging out. So conception is basically alpha, or the letter A at least. I digress. Artwork in its fine essence. Okay, so now it makes sense why this is much more powerful than this. Okay, this was adopted. This was conceived. There's no way human beings can get around this A. A will be forever engraved in our DNA, and till the last one of us dies, that will still be there. Okay, the A is not going anywhere. Our dialect can change. It might. I don't know when. I don't know how, but essentially, if it does change, it will definitely keep the A. It usually keeps the vowel set. But I digress. Moving on. We got AR, augmented reality, artificial reality. Holla. AR equals alpha. Who knew? Right? But we add AI and R. We got air. What is the most alpha thing than air? Nothing. Okay? I cannot be more alpha than air, because essentially, if I have no air, I die. You die if you have no air. Right? True. True or false? It's true. There's no ifs. Right? So essentially, air is by far the most alpha being on earth. Okay? And as I say, God is around us and it surrounds us always. We're flowing. We're floating in air. We're walking through air. We travel through air. And God is all around us. And God is the air. Okay? Mind blown. And it all adds up. Because essentially, that is the shortest answers, or the shortest possibilities of the A alphabet. So we got man, which is more down the line. Okay, the M is letter 13. So we got the I before the M, and since we got the I before the M, the I is stronger than the M. So man can definitely not be the one alpha being that is said to control everything. Okay? It's a misconception. We can perceive reality and change it. We can manifest reality. But we must have an understanding of it. If we can't understand reality, we cannot change it. So if you cannot understand these concepts, they're pretty simple. I know I'm speaking rather quickly, but time-wise. There's a reason why I'm speaking rather quickly. So forgive me if I go too fast. You know, it is indeed a recording, so pause whenever needed, go back and see if you can understand it. But I would suggest watching the whole thing through. You've gotten this far, so just watch the whole thing through and then watch it over and over again as many times as you need, because essentially that's how we learn things. We gotta repeat them. That's how they teach us in school. We all bug out. We're like, dude, we've gone through this. How many times do we have to add 1 and 1 to equal 2? Why doesn't it equal, I don't know, 4? Right? So, essentially, repetition, okay? Alpha. That being said, we got mix. Mix equals alpha. Quite interesting. Mix. Yeah, true. So mix equals alpha, which means it is indeed a big reason why there's a big confusion, because we got a whole mix of ideologies that always have the contradictions. That's what life is about, okay? Life split into two from the beginning. So there indeed has to be contradiction. It's the 50-50 rule. Always, 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 there's a 50% chance in everything, every single possibility, starting from point dimension 0 and infinity, okay? So there's a 50-50 chance that none of this would have happened. We would have just been a void. Just nothing. Can you imagine? No, you cannot, because it's a concept of no sensation. It's a concept of nothing. You cannot interpret nothing, because nothing is nothing. There's literally nothing to have as a point of reference. That's why basically it's split in two, but since it only had one point of reference and it wanted to define itself according to the split off, it's split in three, you know? But essentially it was to put it a little like raw and explicitly, Lucifer had a child with God, Om, as we'd like to call her. Om, or Omega, or the Holy Spirit, had a child with Lucifer, and that child was Michael, okay? But Lucifer was indeed a sibling of Michael. What? That doesn't make any sense, right? Okay, yeah, I know. Okay, so essentially, our weird branch off from Source or Omega, it comes in a set of 3, but not really. Because yes, okay, you need a pair to create a family, right? Once you have one child with a spouse, then you're a family. Okay, you're not really a family if you're just married. If you have no children, you're not a family. You're just married. You're just a pair, okay? As soon as you have a child that defines third dimension and that defines family, okay? I actually have something else to prove that point, but going back to this, for some odd reason, God breathed with itself and had an offshoot. And that's how we have the rest of the angels, because it would keep this process going. Not only would it have a child, an offbreed, with another, another entity or being or letter of the alphabet, it would generate one without having to you know connect. So mystifying, but that's a whole topic in itself. Right. So let us use green this time. Okay, so we got ALPHA, right? The pH is equal to F. What I mean by that is it's equal to F. Fuck off. Right? So the P is the letter 16 in the alphabet. We take that 1 away and we put it on 8, it becomes a 9. And everything you add to 9 becomes itself, right? So then what are you left with? A 6. And F's up because 6th position is reserved for F. So this is how I basically add these letters together much quicker. Essentially, I subtract anything that equals to 9, right? So bear with me. So basically, all this, because A plus H is equal to 9, right? Oh, but wait a minute. What about? Okay, so you got 12 and 16. All right. One and 2 equals 3. 3 plus 6 equals 9. So you're left with a 1. So I didn't subtract the 1 from the A or that A. I didn't subtract it from either A. I subtracted from the P because I knew it was right there. So what do you get with? What are you left with? You're left with 2 A's. So how come alpha equals A? It doesn't add up, right? Because then you're left with 1 plus 1 equals 2, not equal to alpha, right? Slash. Well, what if I told you that humans just added the alpha to signify the pronunciation of A? Okay, you don't pronounce A. Okay, if you thought that this letter was pronounced A, you're way behind. This is alpha, get it? So essentially we got alf, we got alf So we don't need to say alf we need to say alf. That's alf right there. Okay, that's not A, nor is it I mean, it is but to state it as we would like to, it would be alf. So alf equals A. That's why it says alf because this is alf. Get it? So essentially, we're supposed to write it either alf equals A equals or alf dash We got rid of the divider and we essentially gave a different numerical, which messed with our DNA. Okay. As you start continuing our lessons, you start realizing how perverse our dialect has become. But it's cool, because that's what apocalypse is all about. Learning something new and being born again. Thus, I bow my head to you because you got it. Right? So, alpha. But what is alpha? Okay? We already have several interpretations of alpha. We got conception, and we got female and male energy. The female male energy has to do with the flower of life. I'll try to touch upon it in a different video, but do some research on the flower of life and come back. It's very useful. Okay, imperative even, but I must concentrate on those who are already up to speed with this information. Okay, because it took me long, sleepless nights to get all this information. I had to prove something to nothing, and that sounds a little bit crazy because essentially that's what life is. Okay, so right here we got 2, 5, 7, 9, and 5. Wait, n is not 5. I know that. Shut up. Sit down. N is equal to 14. That's why I put a 5, because I know that n adds up to 5. And it's not 5. I'll show you. I'll show you guys in the next video where we went wrong with our numbers. Okay, so essentially we got 2, 5, 7, 9, and 5. For now, that's how we're gonna name our structure due to our current dialect per se. But it will evolve, and we are definitely gonna call these numbers, these number symbols, something else, because it doesn't add up, right? So bear with me. Okay. Boom. Get rid of the I. Boom. I'm sorry, G, but you combine with B. B and G combine. So what are you left with? 5 and 5. So begin equals 10, which equals 5. 5. It begin literally equals this. Alright? So begin is actually a better conception of A than alpha. Okay? But then again, we are pronouncing alpha wrong. We're not pausing between the alpha and A. So it's cool. It adds up. Begin does mean A. That's why it's the first set in the alphabet. I'm not entirely sure about Roman alphabet, but I know for sure that in the Spanish, in the English, and I think Latin, but Greek, it's definitely the first, okay? Because A does indeed start a sequence. It starts life as we know it. And it's all revelation. All this information is coming in and out because I've learned much of this, but the fact that I missed the whole fact that you can see a sperm cell stuck with this tail hanging out from the egg, that's conception, and that was a revelation, yours truly, by Lucifer. Okay, I love Lucifer. She's very Very emotional though. Okay, keep in mind when they split, she took everything. She feels everything. So that's why God loves Lucifer or so much, because Lucifer is basically she's basically everything. If you don't feel happiness, you ain't got God inside of you. You ain't got Lucifer. Okay? Because Lucifer has all the emotions: hate, love, happiness, sadness, anger, content, depression, everything. Okay? Why? Because she's the color, right? What happened in the beginning of our video? I put the dot and that was Lucifer. Without Lucifer, life would have no meaning. Okay? That is why y'all gotta be open-minded, and if you feel inspired, then I would suggest to you to be inspired to pray to God home and forgive yourself if you have antagonized Lucifer, and forgive Lucifer for not controlling her emotions, because she's based off of you. She's a part of you. And if you deny her, well, why do you think Jesus Christ would say the only sin that is highly unforgivable by God is offending spirit? If you offend spirit, that is the highest degree of sin that you can commit. The 7 deadly sins don't mean shit. If you offend spirit, continuing, you know what I mean. So we got Genesis 7, 5, 5, 5. We got 1, 9, 1. Okay. So right here, since it's 3 5s, I can multiply, and we get 15, which we get 6, right? And we add that over here. We got 13 plus 2 equals 15, which equals 6. So Genesis does not equal alpha. Genesis, as it was spelled in the Bible, actually, that's how it's spelling. Genesis. Genesis is highly incorrect. Why? Because it's not the beginning of time. Okay? That's a misconception. Genesis is essentially the beginning of life, Earth, per se. But it's not origins, okay? And now I might have to reevaluate my own concept of naming origins, because this is where we test it. I haven't added up origins. Highly unprepared, but let's see how it goes. So let's add these. Wow, no way. Just looking at it, Origin, that's a 9. Who knew? And by the way, 9 doesn't exist. But check this out. Okay, so the G and the N equal 12 because you got 7 and 5, right? So it equals 12, and you add 6 to it for the O, because it's 15. Then you get 18, which is a 9. Okay, But notice I did say origins. Checkmate, motherfucker. That's right. Thank you, Ohm. Thank you, Lucif. Or if I had pronounced that from the beginning, origin, I would have been highly wrong. Okay? That's why I say channeling is very, very important detail to this channel and this movement. We are a house united. Okay? We should not divide, because stronger, united. Okay? Stronger is always in unity. If we cast off someone and just, we don't like you, we're essentially throwing a boomerang that's gonna hit us twice as hard. Okay? So, very important. Origins equals perfect. Okay, so what is omega though? We got a 6, we got 4, we got 5, 7, and 1. Okay, so right here the 4 and the 5 cancel out. You got 7 and a 1. You add these two together, you get an 8, right? And here is where I love using this trick, because since I know that everything that you add to 9 becomes itself, whatever I add to 8, I just subtract 1 from the other number that is not 8. So essentially we got 5. Whoa, hold on there. 5. Interesting. Interos. Or as Albert Einstein would say, frick, eureka! Yeah, Albert Einstein cursed a lot. Okay, so if you're offended by any bullshit that I say on this channel, then I'm sorry, you're not a scientist. Get the fuck out. Jesus Christ agrees. Okay, don't test me. Now, so what about the end? Okay, just the word end, because that's what omega means. End. The N and the D. Whenever you see ND or ED, it's easiest to spot, and you can cancel those two out because it's 4 and 5. You add and it equals 9. So you get a 5. Whoa. Okay. That's interesting, because 5 equals omega and 5 equals end. So this adds up. Okay? So in all reality, 5 kills us. Okay? Let's see another example. We got DE, right? We got the A and the H. But hold on. Death equals 2. Whoa. Interesting. 2. Not 5. So death is essentially not the end. Okay? That proves that there is an afterlife. Okay? And we all have to make sure that our afterlife is a joyous one. But we're not gonna be able to create a good afterlife if we bring our imminent death. Okay? Misconception. So we got 3 here. We got 3. So interesting. So we got 6 of times equals 6. And if you add of times to end, so end of times, specifically these 3 words, you get a 2, because you get 11 and it equals 2. So the end of times does equal death. Okay, the equals 6. So if we add the end of times, it equals 8. And 8 is always an interpretation, as far as fuck logic has shown us, of a gate. You know, kind of like the gates of heaven or the gates of hell. You gotta keep thinking gates of heaven though, because you don't want to be thinking, oh shit, I'm at the gates of hell. Well, I mean, if you are, then essentially you chose it. Okay, I'm allowing you to choose. You open your mind, you open your heart to spirit, you let spirit flow through here, connects, and let it fill your thoughts. Because your thoughts are very, very easily corrupted. Okay? And if your thoughts get corrupt, then essentially you'll be corrupting your DNA and bringing about death, or the end of times, the end of your time. Okay? Life is all about learning though. Life is repetition, is practice, it is learning new methods and better structures to living much better. Okay, that's why Jesus Christ didn't come to break the law, or he didn't come to remove the law. He literally stated that not one letter must be changed until everything is complete. So we are actually incomplete. Imperfection is a good sign of perfection. Why? Because perfection includes everything, and if it's perfect, then it has to include imperfection, right? That blemish. Oops. So essentially, we are filling in that spot of imperfection, and we must forgive ourselves and ask for forgiveness, because we are not alone. Okay, we got Om surrounding us. We got Spirit. If you thought that you moved through this space and time, sorry. Om can put a wall right here and you cannot pass. Alright? So don't test spirit, because spirit will do her thing. Okay? The Holy Spirit is whole. It's not holy with just a regular H. Right? Because with the regular H, that means it's void. It's missing something. Okay? But if you add the W, it's whole. It's complete. Okay? That's why we have the Holy Spirit without the W. They take away the W to show us that there's something missing. There's something that all Christianity needs to perceive, which is the Holy Spirit is incomplete. Okay? That's where we come in. So, closure. We got that equals 9. Shoot. Well, okay. So, S and U equals... So, closure, CLOSURE. I might be missing an E, and that would make a big difference, because if we add another E, it would equal 8. But closure, as I had spelled it, and it might be incorrect spelling, equals 3. Okay? That's why third dimension, right? A family begins when it's 3. Okay, you give closure to the definition of your family, because when you get married, you can still separate, you can still get lost and just, you know, peace out or whatever. But once you got closure, as in bonding with a child, that's what ties us in with this reality. Okay, it gives closure to death. It says, I don't want to die yet. I need to fulfill my duties. Okay, that's what we come to do. We come to work, and we come to fulfill our duty to source. Right? There are many spiritual beings or people that don't do shit. Okay, they're contributing to all this madness because essentially they're saying, no, no, I want to be positive. I want to be feel good all this time. I'm centered. Ooh. Well, they don't know that they're throwing off all these bad vibes, and we're receiving them, and we throw them back, and they're like, oh, little vibration, little force field, and they bounce it back. So basically, what we need to do instead of throwing it back, because it's like punching a brick wall. You're not gonna do any damage. You're gonna damage yourself. So receive what must be received and evolve. Use it to your advantage. That's what Jesus Christ did. Okay? Apocalypse, the big one right here. Okay? Alright, so we got right there the OC APA equals 9. What else we got here? Okay, so L and Y is 3 and 7. That equals 1. So you add 1 and 1. So apocalypse indeed equals 5. So apocalypse does indeed equal omega. Crazy. Hell of a trip. Hell of a trip. I'm going to give you guys a real quick one. Because remember how death equals 2? Well, here's the weird but interesting thing about God. Okay? Let's flip a page because that one's already too, used up. So, God, right? Quick little, a little something, something. So God, where in the Bible does it state that God equals 777? Okay. You've heard it. I've heard it. We've all thought, lucky number 7. 7 3 times in a row. That's God. Okay. Well, we got G equals 7. Let's use another color. Let's use pretty pink because it's alpha. Alright. Whatever. Must not discriminate. Okay. I know you can't see this, but I'll illustrate it. Okay. So we got G right here, 7. And we got 6. And we got 4. Right? 6 and 4 equal 1. Plus 7 equals what? 8. God equals 8. Wow. Interesting. Okay. So then what does that have to do with anything, right? So you fail to see already the importance of God equal to 8, then get ready to be mind blown. Okay? This is where fuck logic plays a big role in the purple pill movement, right? 50-50 states that the probability of Jesus Christ coming out of the United States would be Latino. What up? Okay. Because only a Latino can understand all this bullshit. Sorry, I don't mean to call it bullshit, but it's insanity, okay? That's what it is. It is insanity. Okay? So, what I mean by that is that life, okay? So, let's see. Marker, black. Right. Quick illustration of God in Spanish, which is Dios, right? I'll just put that here. Dios. Simple and effective. Dios. Okay? So, what do we got with Dios? What is so fascinating about comparing Dios to God? Check this out. Okay, we got 4. We got a 9. Oh, cross that off, right? And we got a 16, but it's essentially a 6, right? And then we got 19, which is a 1, okay? You add 6 and 4, you get 10. So you get 11. 11. Oh my God, that's where the 11 comes from. Yes. Come on. Keep with it. So, Dios actually equals 2. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Why would it equal 2, right? This is the funny thing. You take the I away from Dios and you get dos, which dos is a numerical value for 2. What? What are you talking about? You just fucked my mind here. Okay. Y'all want to take a quick break? Pause it. Get a snack. Drink a lot of water, for one. And be ready for the mind fuck, which is essentially fuck Logic's best aspect. Her best gift of God is fucking Logic, basically. Okay? So, Dios equals God. Why? Why the why? Okay? 2. Spanish and English. 2 is the only value in both languages that actually does equal up to its letters. Dos. Right? 2 does not equal 2. Okay? Misconception. 2 equals something else. But in Spanish, dos does equal 2. So that is why Jesus Christ had to come through Jesus el Cristalero, and he gave me that name because it's catchy. It's like Crystala, you know? Crystala. It's you know, crystal and Allah. So it's you know, Christ and Allah. Get it? Right? It's bringing 2 together. Hopefully I could get y'all to come and, you know, collaborate with me because I can't do it without you. Essentially, I would be uno, not dos, right? So, 2, okay? This is where it gets, like, completely just a clusterfuck. Why does this equal that? Well, essentially, we got 2 O's. Dios. D in Spanish is to say, right? Say O's. Get it? So essentially, it's as if it got lost in translation, as if they were saying, say oh. But in Spanish, it would be like D-O, right? It's saying D-O, 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 O, O. Like they couldn't pronounce it, so essentially it's as if a Spanish speaker was talking to a Native American, a person with a different dialect, and they were telling them D-O, right? D-O. Because, okay, so, best way to interpret it, essentially, they were teaching each other's cultures, and, the ones in power, the Spaniards were trying to teach um, religion and God, and they were like, oh, that's God. That's big guy right there, right? So they're like, whoa, 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 what do I mean? What's that? It's like, oh, you gotta say, oh, like, oh. So then they get frustrated and they're like, the O's, like, they purified the O and they say, the O's. So we end up with Dios, right? That's essentially how we we received our name. I don't know how you guys received God, but I know where my roots come from. Dios. So you got an O, right? Omega. But you got two O's. Because essentially you were trying to say just O, but then you got Dios. So then now you got two O's instead of one O. It's like the binary sequence. Instead of having 0, 1, you got 0, 0, which means you can change reality. You can manifest a different outcome by giving it a different input. That's where 11 comes in, okay? 11, yes, okay, that does equal Dios. That is why its power pertains to it. But just because you leave it at 11 doesn't mean shit. Okay? The fact that its numerical value in numerology adds up to 2 is because it's Dios and you got two O's in a binary sequence in a binary world that gives you a different outcome. This is a binary world after all. You have 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, positive and negative, positive and negative, positive and negative, positive and negative, right? Okay, we've covered all this. Excuse me. So, how does Dios equal God if God equals 8, right? Well, in its symbol, right? We all know that 8 sideways equals infinity. But we don't consider 8 infinite. Why? It's the same thing. That's infinity, okay? That's the symbol for infinity, right side up. So what makes the difference between this 8 and that 8? It ate sideways. Get it? It's a joke. Eat a dick. If you didn't laugh at that, just eat a dick, yo. Okay, so sorry. I get passionate and I get excited. I start to say nonsense, okay? But it's all fun in the spirit. We all have a good laugh because essentially life is all about having a good laugh, right? We all laugh at our mistakes. And in heaven, we're going to be laughing even harder, saying, oh my God, it was all so simple. And we just kind of just fucked ourselves, basically. So, I digress. I'm a scientist, so I must carry my profession, right? I must not curse too much, because it doesn't sound right speaking about God and then, you know, saying these things. But I digress. So you got two O's, and they're stuck between each other. So that's why Dios equals God, even though it has a different numerical value. That's where fuck logic starts playing games. instead of numbers, she essentially says, okay, check this out. I'm gonna switch it up on y'all. Instead of adding and coding and all this, I'm gonna do this and basically say artwork now. Take the design. So you got two O's stuck to each other, and they start sharing. Whoopsies. Cool. They start sharing a loop. They're just touching. And in the middle, where we're supposed to be at, is everything. Okay? So you kind of take it as in human biology, two of everything, right? We got two eyes. Actually, we got three, but like two eyes naturally. We got two hemispheres in our brain. We got positive and negative. You know, don't let your left hand see what you give with your right hand, or whatever, however that scripture goes. But essentially, we're in the realm of infinite possibilities. That is why this is the multiverse, okay? Because essentially, if there's infinite possibilities in our domain, as in right now, specifically as we speak, as you're learning, you are calculating subconsciously all these realities, and you're unlocking the doors to infinite possibilities. Okay, notice I did say infinite. That is why Jesus Christ he would teach specifically in a way to manifest a better reality. Okay, you do not want to unlock and manifest infinite possibilities of torture. Okay, that is essentially what I did, but as Christ, I did it for y'all, and I did it for none of y'all. What I mean by that is essentially I did it for those who cared. Okay, because this information can die out with our species. We can die out along with it. This would become a figment of Earth's reality. Earth will continue evolving, and human beings mean nothing. Okay, we mean nothing to Earth, but Earth means everything to us. So if we don't take care of Om and our domain, then just die already. Whoa, kind of bipolar there, huh? Yeah. I'm putting in both aspects of reality. Okay. I'm nice, but I'm mean. I'm happy, but I'm angry. I'm a madman, yo. No, I'm just kidding. But essentially, everybody's crazy. Okay, everybody's crazy to some degree. Otherwise, you would not be living. Insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So it's insane to be doing anything, because we know that practice makes perfect. So the more that we try a certain thing, and as we fail, but we get better because we learn and we learn. But essentially, we're doing the same thing. We're constant vicious cycle. So we're all crazy by that standard. We're all insane. We all practice insanity. Psychosis is a different topic. That's where it gets interesting. But y'all not ready? Y'all gotta follow me with the alphabet, and I covered enough of this topic for now, even though I haven't even given like raw definitions. Raw definitions of the alpha letter, besides begin and what was the other one? Origins. that being said, I think we got good context for tonight. I'm gonna take a break. I might continue making another video later, but my brain is throbbing right now because I'm not in control of the current speech per se. It is all inspired by spirit, by source. Okay, so it is a channel, thus channel on YouTube. It's all information from source directly to you. So take advantage of it. Okay, you got that pause button, you got the rewind, you got the replay button. What else do you got to lose besides, you know, nothing and everything? Because essentially, nothing is everything. Before I start getting into the whole, insane complexity of spirit and spirituality, I'll just leave it at that. Okay, y'all have so much potential and y'all have so much to look forward to. Okay, this is just the beginning. Henceforth, the the alpha okay, that's how you pronounce it, the alpha okay. So that concludes this segment of that of our current philosophy. Next video, I might touch upon a little more on the alpha, but I might switch it up because I do have other context in the channel to be covering, and I did promise to have sessions of the tarots. I have a tarot deck and I don't really know how to use it because I can't find instructions, and my instructions got wet and they got ruined. So if y'all know a Mayan tarot instruction where I could, if y'all know a link where I could get the definitions and the instructions of the Mayan tarot, then please send it down in the comments or something, because I'd highly appreciate it. As far as I know, the major arcana has definitions to it, to each card, but the minor arcana does not have definitions to its design and effort. So it kind of leaves us hanging off a cliff when we're trying to figure out what do these cards mean, right? Why is it incomplete? Why the major arcana just gives a very vague and small description of what these cards mean, but yet we're missing the majority of the deck, which is the minor arcana, which is funny because the minor arcana has more context than the major. So highly logical, it contradicts itself, and life goes on as we know it. This was Purple Pill 50/50 Cometa Reyes signing out. Y'all just had fun with Jesus el Cristalero. See y'all next video.